All right, hello, good evening, and welcome to the final round of the All Nations League Season 3, Round 11 at Abu Dhabi for our Division 1 race. And I hope the stream is live now with me. And I hope if all Yep, I think the stream is live and I can hear myself, so that's an audio check done very well as well. As we are now coming to pretty much the end of qualifying, as there are drivers crossing the line. LVP hashtag right now P9. We had a full qualifying session today and he crosses the line, goes P3. There's a Red Bull that's crossing the line. I think that is Mr. Psycho ALB. He is up on his time. He crosses the line, goes P2. And here comes Danny. Danny crossing the line, stays on pole, doesn't improve on his time. And there's a Mercedes spinning right around as there is Krusty Nation now, probably the final driver to cross the line. I think that is ANL Flo or FA Aima that still live, but he has invalidated his lap. So after a full qualifying session here around Abu Dhabi, we are coming to 29 laps around this circuit. As let's quickly go through the grid. So final at the end of Q3, we have Danny taking pole, Psycho ALB in the front row, Destroyer Sean, hashtag occupying the second row, Gatkowski, Kingsman, Krusty Nation, Flo, FA Ima, and Red Flame Joe. Your remaining runners. Let's have a look at what the situation is for our final race. And all right, okay, I'm just going to pull up the the championship standings. So Psycho ALB right now with a 2 point lead on Destroyer Sean. So championship is all to fight for, and ANL float just 22 points behind him. So if the Red Bull and the Alpine of Psycho and Destroyer Sean DNF and Flo wins the race, he definitely has a chance of winning the World Drivers' Championship for this season. And talking about constructors, it is a very three-way fight between the Red Bull, Mercedes, and the Alpine driver. So let's see what happens at the end of 28 laps around Abu Dhabi. The floodlights are on. As much as the session doesn't completely look under dark skies or the night skies, but uh, we are definitely poised to have some brilliant racing. And let's see what happens. ANL Flow also probably somewhere P6 or P7 if I'm not mistaken in his start. So he is there in the top half of the grid. As far we have the five lights there, and it's lights out and away we go. So Danny getting a brilliant start, so does Destroyer Sean, and the top two were here, but Alpine of Destroyer Sean dives down the inside. Now side by side goes P2 and P3, and Alpine of Destroyer Sean has had a major moment, and the two McLarens also side by side. We haven't seen the tires situation for all these drivers, but let's focus on the race start, as now the McLaren's jostling for positions as there is contact between a lot of cars. I think there is a Williams of Woolcott involved, probably. I'm not very sure what the back of the grid looks like, but the Mercedes is now under a double attack from the McLaren boys. The McLaren boys also probably no team orders around there at the McLaren, followed by the two Mercedes up ahead, going back up ahead. So the two Danny and Psycho LB are also tucked. Psycho LB tucked behind the Alfa Romeo driver. Meanwhile, I think it's the teammate Alpine of Gutkowski was it? I'm not very sure, and that's a spinner there of, I think that was Gutkowski. Yes, as there is the Ferrari almost runs into the back of the Mercedes, was it? Or was it AlphaTauri of FAIMA now under attack from the Mercedes driver? He has lost that position to righty and now will come under attack from Kingsman as well, as I think there is a driver going back into the pits, which is Gutkowski. And Gutkowski, Exo, Wolves and Volcott, and Gutkowski has retired from the session that's in the pit lane, so that is a very premature end to his race. Probably might have just gotten rear wing damage, which has forced him to retire from this session very early. But let's see, there is an interesting battle here for P11 that is going on, or rather P12, make that P12. As going back up, Mr. Psycho ALB is still tucked in behind Danny, so very comparable pace for both these drivers. Now let's also look at the tire situation, as the Mercedes is looking to make a move on FAIMA. And has he made the move? I think he has. He dives around down the inside, gets a brilliant drive, and now is going to attack the Haas driver. I think it's the difference of tire compound. The Mercedes on the mediums versus the Haas on the hard tires. Now looks to make a switch on the inside, but that's the door shut down by the Haas driver. Now let's have a look at, let's put our controls finally there. Okay, yep, alright. So let's see, yep, that is the tire advantage up top as well, as Dan is still holding on to his position on those hard tires. But meanwhile, hashtag setting the fastest lap of the race on hard tires again. So there is a big train of cars here, just almost Krusty Nation right now a lead of a DRS train. Meanwhile, Danny is on a lead as well. Now meanwhile, Destroyer Sean has a recovery race to run. Let's see how much of this can he salvage, because the championship fight is still on. 2 points ahead is the difference, as going up ahead as there is a lot of battle. The game doesn't want to give me the best of angles as Mr. Psycho ALB goes wide for some reason, and but has made the move on Danny right now. But Danny, now there is a yellow flag for FAIMA. I think, was it FAIMA? I think FAIMA had a moment coming out of the tricky low traction zone. Now is going to come under attack. Oh, and the contact between the Aston Martin and the AlphaTauri, I believe, of Cheroin and Flo. I think those were the two drivers were there. But as there is a spinner of Mr. Psycho ALB and also Red Flame, who has lost his car. So, oh, Mr. Psycho ALB not having the best of times. Now he is also at the back of the grid, which is good news for Destroyer Sean right now, as Kingsman and Danny is also in P4. So I think something happened between these two drivers, the Red Bull and the Alfa Romeo, because both of them have lost positions, and for some reason in amongst all the mess I've just missed that out. But let's see, as there is a yellow flag again for Mr. Psycho ALB, and he has lost his car yet again, so not the race that he wants to have. Meanwhile, hashtag and righty, the righty going on the inside of hashtag. Now hashtag tries to get a better exit than righty, but can those hard tires come to his advantage? Not yet, but he will get the DRS assist to save himself from the drivers behind, as the two Ferraris have also exchanged position. Now think both on the same strategy, but going for any kind of moves that they can make here, as there is a 3-car battle between Sviros, Destroyer Sean and the Haas of TTV, Mr. Chris, I believe. And Destroyer Sean now finds himself ahead of his championship rival, who's right at the back of the grid. So Mr. Psycho ALB still needs to continue with this race. Anything can happen in a race, and one safety car can just get him back in the picture, is now going back to the battle up top. Now Mr. Righty still hasn't able to pull any gap from hashtag, but hashtag runs wide down from the exit of turn one, but he will still have the DRS assist, and so would Krusty Nation and the Mercedes Alfa Romeo of Danny and Kai the assassin behind. So there is a DRS train. Meanwhile, is Sviros going to make a move on? I don't think there is any kind of move coming up in the top 5, but Mr. Chris is going to come under attack as Jeroen has retired in the pit lane, so that's not the best of news for the Aston Martin driver. As now, oh, contact between the Haas and the McLaren of Sviros. Sviros probably just taps into the rear of the Haas driver, which makes him spin around, and he's lost a lot of positions as now Destroyer Sean goes around the inside of Sviros, takes that grip advantage and makes that move stick. Meanwhile, FAIMA, all the others drivers also following suit behind now. This is a DRS train right from P1 to P12. All the drivers. Oh, I think Destroyer Sean is the gap break in DRS, but he would be looking to make all his inroads, whatever time that he lost out of the spin and contact at turn 2 and 3 with Mr. Psycho ALB. So the two championship rivals coming together. Abu Dhabi is a track which provides room for a lot of overtaking, and being the final track on the calendar, typically you get a lot of action with drivers especially fighting for championship and might just go elbows out, which we just witnessed between the two drivers. The championship leaders is what I'm going to do. Ooh, as Kingsman almost runs into the back of Krusty Nation there. But what I'm going to do right now quickly is just reduce the engine sounds and the engine volumes. I think just a bit too high for comfort. I think this should be better now. As coming back, Kai the assassin is just second behind. So Destroyer shot. No, that was making a move on Sviros. So he is still 4 seconds behind the lead train. So let's see if he can still pull in inroads. There's not a lot of inroads that he's able to pull right now, but a beautiful helicopter shot which doesn't cover the battle that is right behind for P8 between Sviros, FAIMA and Mr. Chris, and also the Red Bull of Exo Wolves and ANL Volcott right behind us. There's a spinner of Sviros, and he lost his wing. He certainly has lost a lot of positions. But does he have his wing? I think he has his wing intact, so that might just be good news for him, as Mr. Psycho just finds himself at the back of the grid trying to claw up whatever positions he can, as the drivers up top just following each other as the race is now coming to just settle down just a bit. Destroyer Sean also not able to make a lot of inroads, but FAIMA is another lead of this train. DRS train here might come under attack from Mr. Chris. All these drivers right from P9 to P16 running on the same tire compound, so it's all about pure pace and car setups that they have tuned. As the Haas driver of Mr. Chris has a moment coming out of that newly remodeled vehicle, and so does Sviros. Oh no, I'm not sure if he got distracted from the drivers ahead, but what happened, but that's not the best of news, as Volcott just runs wide at the penultimate corner, which would just compromise his exit, but he still is able to hold his position here, as Kingsman, probably the driver closest to the car ahead, as there's a yellow flag as Rutger has retired from the session and coming out of turn 2. And is that a safety car? Yes, that is a safety car. And these all these medium runners, that might just be a blessing for these medium runners who can just come in early and take a set of hard tires through to the end of the race. And brilliant news for Mr. Psycho ALB, because he can be that medium runner who can now go on a set of hard tires, as he's getting a free position from Mr. Chris. So Mr. Chris doesn't want to be a hindrance in the championship fight that's very much alive. Though how things stand currently, I believe Destroyer Sean might just be clinching the drivers' championship with how things stand right now. But it is a long race to go, and the hard runners won't really be welcoming the timing of this safety car, because they still are a bit far away from their mandatory box, as there's a medium runner of righty that is pit, but a hard runner of Krusty Nation has also pit, and Destroyer Sean is also in the pits. Expect Psycho ALB also to come into his pits for a set of fresh hard tires, and all the hard runners except Krusty Nation have decided to continue. And there's 20 laps, let's say 19 laps of green flag racing, if we don't see another safety car to go. 19 laps of green flag racing to go. That might just be a heavy ask from those medium tires, but let's find out how that works out. Meanwhile, Kai the assassin, the medium runner who hasn't pit, and he might just be the only medium runner who hasn't pit. So, alright, that is an interesting strategy call by him. As I am not very sure, I think reserve points also get counted for the Constructors' Championship, and with the way things stand, I think there is just one Alpine driver of Destroyer Sean, so he alone has to outscore the Red Bull by 27 points. So I think that's championship battle pretty much over, even if Destroyer Sean tries to go for a win plus fastest lap, as there was a bit of contact between some drivers. I heard a bit of front wing entanglement, but nonetheless, going to Mercedes, another 24-point gap to the Red Bull of Mr. Psycho and Exo Wolves. Okay, position swapping. What happened to Mr. Psycho? Oh, and I see a spinner. Kai has come into the pits, so I did see a spinner. I think that was the Ferrari. Is that a lapped Ferrari in between or what? No, I don't know which car that was. That looked pretty much. Or was that Psycho? It could have been Psycho as well. Anyway, it's just safety car. I don't think they lost a lot. Oh, there is no front wing. I think that was Kai. And Kai has no front wing and has old mediums, and I think safety car would also just be in this lap. Oh my god, that's not the best of news for Ferrari driver. Oh, sorry, the McLaren driver. But yep, 24 points separating the Red Bull and Mercedes. So the right now Red Bull are positioned well to take the seal the constructors, as well as, let me just, I have not been keeping an eye on the stream, as safety car should hopefully be in this lap. I still have a few seconds before I can keep going. Yes, safety car is in this lap. The track has turned uh, colorless from turning green, so let's go back to hashtag who would be doing the safety car restart. Kingsman right behind him, Danny in P3, FAIMA in P4. EXO was having a good start, I think, in P5. Volcott in P6 from the back of the grid. But let's see, when does hashtag decide to go? Hashtag in the Williams still weaving around, and he has gone, I think. Just takes all the drivers fairly neatly behind us now. Oh, and there's a spinner off. I think that is Exo Wolves, and the two Ferraris are also looking to battle side by side almost through turn one. And now this is reminiscent of what happened between, but the Ferrari swap positions, I believe, and there's a yellow flag, and I think a potential reset to track as well. I don't know if that was, but there's a spinner in the AlphaTauri as well, but that pretty much looked like a reset to track. But going back up, there are drivers side by side, Krusty Nation and TTV, Mr. Cruz, Mr. Chris, both the drivers, Haas drivers side by side and exchange the positions. Meanwhile, Sviros also wants to get himself involved in this battle and try to salvage any positions as he can. Both all these three medium runners trying to vie for positions as much as he can, as Mr. Chris wants to come back at his teammate now side by side. Both the drivers, Mr. Chris, Krusty Nation on the inside now. Mr. Chris tries to go for the switchback, doesn't happen, but still has to hold back and live to fight another lap, as 1.2 second is the gap between hashtag and Kingsman. So that's a brilliant safety car restart right there by him, and Kingsman might also just come under attack by this train of cars right behind, as there is one more lap to go before DRS gets enabled, as Digo has just detached himself after having, and there's a yellow flag. I think that was for Flo. Oh, and there's a spinner of Kai the Assassin. Has he damaged his rear wing? I'm not very sure what happened. Meanwhile, going back behind, is there any kind of move coming? Red Flame is under a lot of attack from the Mercedes of Righty. Does Righty look to go on the inside? Yes, he does, side by side across that heavy low traction zone. Who gets the better traction? The Ferrari of Red Flame getting squirrely while coming up on the power, and has lost the position and is now under attack from the Red Bull of uh, Mr. Psycho ALB, and Mr. Psycho ALB on his recovery drive. Can he sticks on to the outside of the track, which is now the inside for the next corner. Now the Ferrari of Red Flame has to yield for this lap, as the Red Bull of Mr. Psycho ALB on those fresher hard tires stuck his car all along the outside and makes the move, as DRS would now also be enabled, and Kingsman has pulled away a few tenths on this lap and might just be within the DRS of hashtag, as hashtag runs wide coming through turns 2 and 3, and that invites Kingsman right to his rears. Now, does Kingsman brake late? No, he still decides to hold right station behind and tries to get a better exit than hashtag, but now with the DRS assist, hashtag defending the middle of the track, Kingsman pulls around on the outside and makes the move on hashtag. Meanwhile, can hashtag get a better exit than him and make a move, come back at him? He is coming back, and he has made the move. Hashtag has made that move back and gets that P1 back from the Mercedes driver. But this is a battle to watch out for, as there was a lot of exchange of positions happening between the Haas and the McLaren precisely, and the Ferrari was also of Red Flame Joe was also involved. I think Mr. Chris just made a move on Red Flame Joe in the previous DRS zone, and now, oh no, this Mr. Psycho ALB, has he lost his car? Yes, he has. And has he lost chunks of his wing is what we need to find out. More importantly, he hasn't, but There is a Ferrari between him and his rival, and right now both these drivers not scoring points. So if this is how things stand, so Mr. Psycho ALB might just be able to clinch the drivers' championship. As looking at, let's talk about Righty, and Righty is on a mode attack and he pulls on the inside of ANL Volcott and makes that move well before the braking zone. Meanwhile, McLaren in a Haas sandwich. Now McLaren of Sui Ross, I believe, would want to make a move on Krusty Nation as quickly as he can, but he also has another charging Haas driver to contend with, as Diego and Destroyer Sean, I believe, making those swapping positions, as Destroyer Sean makes a move on Diego, but Diego almost gives a scare on the inside to Destroyer Sean, but Destroyer Sean well wary of it and now has got his championship rival right up ahead, as Danny has retired at Nicholas. I think that is Nicholas Latifi corner, and this calls for another safety car. So that is a blessing in disguise for all these hard runners, and all the strategy advantage that the early medium pitters would have gotten is now out of the window. Now hashtag hasn't box, but he would definitely be riding under the delta, so no, that's not any worry for the top two, and they would expect them to dash into the pits as well for a fresh set of mediums. And I think with the way the tire allocation is, these drivers might just have another set of mediums handy, so all the hard runners who have to do their mandatory pit stop will come on a medium set of mediums, and Mr. Chris can also might just also be able to come on a fresh set of mediums. Uh, as Krusty Nation has precisely done that, so he is on a fresh set of mediums. So is Sviros, and Kai the Assassin is on a set of hard tires, but he hasn't boxed as well, so he wants to claw his way back up to the pack, as Flo is also on a set of mediums. So and expect the top two also to go on a set of mediums, and might just expect Righty as well to dive into the pits. And Mr. Psycho and Destroyer Sean are back in the mix. So let's see if they decide to box or if they decide to continue right now. And 2 points separating these drivers. That's just, and let's see who has the fastest lap right now, which is with hashtag. So 2 points is the gap, and way things stand, Mr. Psycho Kingsman is in the pits, and so would hashtag be, and his hashtag is a bit too long, stationary for a bit too long, but he still has that position on Kingsman. I think, yep, he does. And but Righty has decided to continue, and so has Mr. Chris. Alright, that's pretty interesting. Mr. Psycho and Destroyer Sean both have also decided to continue, so they believe that track position is more important here than fresh mediums, but they might just come under attack from a train of fresh medium runners behind, and which is, I think, goes right from P5 to P12. So this is going to be rather very spicy in the next half of the race. We've got 13 laps to go. Expect the safety car to run in for one more lap, as why are drivers changing positions here? For some reason, Psycho has been able to make a move on Mr. Chris, and I'm just witnessing this for the second time, I think. And I don't know if Mr. Chris and Psycho are on a party chat, but he also lets Destroyer Sean through, so he doesn't want to become a bottleneck to the championship rivals. That's quite the racing sportsmanship there, shown by Mr. Chris here. He doesn't want to absolutely see himself anywhere around this battle that's very much, pretty much very feisty. Is just not. Let's talk about. So NL Flow also has a gap to Danny behind a 13-point gap. So he would want to secure his P3 in the Drivers' Championship, as Kingsman is also pretty close. So I think there's a pretty intense fight for P3 as well between Flo, Danny, and Kingsman. As we are now in lap 17, so 12. I think safety cars should be in this lap. So lap 18 to lap 29, 12 laps of racing to go, provided we don't get another safety car. Uh, But righty right now looking the Mercedes are right now scoring 25 plus 8, 33 points, and the Red Bulls are scoring 18 18 points. So that's a 15-point advantage that the Mercedes would have coming to the end of the race, but that might just not be enough for them to be able to clinch the constructors title. So Red Bull are really looking poised to have a double championship finish, as the safety car is in this lap. As let's see, righty is going to do the restart. Mr. Psycho right behind him, Destroyer followed by Destroyer. Sean pretty close, dancing, weaving around in synchronization here. The drivers is Mr. Chris, followed by Hashtag, and then Kingsman and FAIMA, Woolcott and Red Bull, and the two Ferraris. Red Flame Joe as D go, as let's see when does righty decide to pounce, as he still hasn't. I think he wants to take it to the final corner. Let's see how much can he take catch the Red Bull off guard, who's absolutely close. He hasn't gone, and he finally has gone, as there is this has caused a pile up of cars behind us, again reminiscent of lap 1, and Destroyer Sean goes for an eager move, and there is a spinner of AlphaTauri and Williams. I think was that the Williams? I'm not very sure. I might have to get my controls back. It was the Williams driver, as Kingsman now is making a move on the Ferrari of Red Flame Joe. So Kingsman now up to P5, and side by side are Hashtag and Psycho ALB. Psycho ALB, oh, there is just didn't have the best of run down through into that corner and to the exit as well, and is also under a lot of attack from Mr. Chris. But that also is the grip advantage and the grip difference these drivers have, as Mr. Psycho ALB coming under attack from the Haas of Mr. Chris, almost clipping wheels. Both the drivers now. Does the Haas look to move on the inside, peek down the inside? No, he doesn't. He still decides to hold back from what from the train of drivers behind, especially the medium runners. But there is everybody is still following suit, and Destroyer Sean is again at the back of the pack. But now coming, how long can Mr. Psycho ALB hold up? He has lost 1.5 seconds to the medium runner of Hashtag ahead, who is hot, as FAIMA has retired in the pits. So that's no problem. That's not going to cause a safety car. But Hashtag is hot on the Mercedes of righty right up ahead, as Red Flame Joe has had. Did he have a moment, or did he get clipped in by his res by someone from behind? But right now we don't know, as the Haas and the Ferrari of Kingsman and Krusty Nation side by side. Krusty Nation a bit of contact, and RG Pargy, things getting messy for both the drivers, as Crusty Nation with his elbows out has made the move on the Ferrari of Diego, but Diego wants to come back at him. Can he make a move on this remodeled corner, fast corner? But no is the answer, as ANL Volcott has for some reason has had a moment again, and now Mr. Chris also still behind Mr. Psycho ALB, so that's not, and he is losing a bit of ground, or it's there's pretty much a comparable pace that's up ahead. But meanwhile, Kingsman on Mr. Chris. Mr. Chris now with those worn mediums, so those mediums would definitely be demanding a lot right now, and clearly he is not having the pace that the drivers behind him have. How long can he hold them up for Mr. Psycho ALB's advantage? We're just about to find out, as are there any kind of moves coming right now? No is the answer, but can ANL Volcott line himself up? But Kingsman and the Haas of Mr. Chris. Mr. Chris now with those medium tires now just being less than ordinary and not giving him the grip he needs. But now Kingsman would now be on a more charge onto Mr. Psycho ALB, and this and their fight for the championship is alive, as the Haas of Mr. Chris has a major snap of oversteer, and to correct that in that counter steer he just loses his car big time, and probably his front wing as well. So that's the battle over for the Haas driver, and finds himself on the downside there. But now there is a yellow flag for the Haas of Mr. Chris, and he's got another moment. Hope that doesn't call out a VSC. It doesn't, but Kingsman pretty close to the DRS of Mr. Psycho. I think he would be able to get the DRS. He is under a second at the detection line, and he's got a train of medium runners right behind him. So this train would be really alive in the last 8 laps, and put any all kinds of attack on the hard runners ahead. Now hashtag has now cleared himself by almost 2 seconds on those medium tires, making those moves early onto the safety car restart. But now Kingsman slowly closing inroads, coming inroads onto Mr. Psycho ALB ahead, and the Red Bull is in a Mercedes sandwich right now, and the way things stand, I'm not sure. I think the Red Bull might just still be able to clinch the constructors as well, but there are still 8 laps to go. Anything can happen in a race. One safety car can flip things around in a jiffy, but I don't want to call that and curse that to have a safety car come out, as we do have a very neat train of cars, as Righty is also losing a lot of ground, but he is on the same tire age as Mr. Psycho. And let's see if there is a move coming for Mr. Psycho ALB right now. This is a Mercedes versus Red Bull fight. Red Bull would want to make all the kind of positions that he can. Meanwhile, Destroyer Sean is also very close to Exo Wolves behind. No moves coming here, but is Destroyer Sean going to go for a move? No is the answer, but can he get the better drive? There is a yellow flag for Mr. Chris, I think, but can he get a better drive, Destroyer Sean? He is not getting that drive right now, I believe, and still has to hold back, as ANL Flow is also pretty close to the McLaren ahead, who doesn't have the DRS from the Ferrari. The last of the drivers in this train of cars from P2 to P6. So all is at play for all these drivers. Let's see how long can the Mercedes driver hold on, because if he really wants his teammate to make a move, he might just have to push in, do a couple of push laps to be able to pull away from the DRS of the Red Bull behind, but Kingsman is now even closer than the Red Bull is to the Mercedes ahead. But what happens now? It's all about getting a brilliant exit out of this corner. Does Kingsman on those better tires? He does get the better exit out of the two drivers, and does he get the drive and does he have enough straight line speed to be able to make a move on the Red Bull? No is the answer right now, as Sky the assassin is ghosted for some reason. Okay. But Kingsman now very close to Mr. Psycho ALB. Can he pose any kind of an attack? No, all both P2, P3, P4, and P5 and make that P6, but side by side go the Mercedes and the Red Bull. Mr. Psycho trying to, or rather, Kingsman trying to take the advantage of those medium tires, brakes later than the Red Bull, but the Red Bull had his defensive guard on and still has held on to that position, as side by side are the Ferrari and the Haas driver as well, and the Ferrari of Diego has made that position. But Mr. Psycho LB, did he have a moment? Yes, I think he did have a moment coming out of the final corner and has lost the position to the Mercedes. So it's a double podium for the Mercedes as things stand right now, as Diego would also. Krusty Nation has made a move back on Diego. I don't know if Diego, I think he ran a bit wide coming through turns one and two, and which invited Diego to take the position back from him. But now this is a DRS train, and M1 righty and Kingsman now right. Kingsman on that faster compound. Are there any kind of team orders that come into picture here? Kings, but there is an overtake coming. Forget team orders, and both the drivers, I think, almost locking up. It was a test of late braking, and I think ANL Flo did make the move on Sui Ross, and so was Wolves Volkart looking to make a move on uh, Red Flame Joe, the other Ferrari. Meanwhile, Destroyer Sean trying to go down the inside of Psycho LB in turn 1 on that safety car restart, is now just at the back of the grid, and a safety car is the only thing that can help his cause right now, as we are just running out of laps, or rather he is running out of laps for the safety car to come out rather, as we are now in lap 25. So team orders in play at the Mercedes, as Kingsman has moved past righty. Now right king, he does Kingsman lend the DRS to his Mercedes teammate? No is the answer, which would put righty under a lot of attack. He defends the middle of the track. The Haas of Krusty Nation dives on the inside from Qatar, probably, in while we are in Abu Dhabi. But that was fairly elbows out. Now that is a heavy defense that righty tried to set up, but in his defense he has lost two more positions to the both to Krusty Nation and the Ferrari of Diego. So this medium versus hard battle has just suddenly come alive, as Psycho ALB is also another victim of a lot of positions lost there, but he wouldn't mind right now. His championship rival is down into P10. But is this the best of news for the Red Bulls in the Constructors' Championship right now, as Destroyer Sean goes down the inside of Sri Ross and makes a position? 3 laps for Destroyer Sean to go, 3 positions between the championship rivals, but Mr. Psycho ALB is clung on to the Mercedes. Looking at how things stand, I think the Mercedes Red Bull might have just clinched the constructors as Mr. Psycho LB pulls on the inside of righty as side by side they go across that tricky chicane. Who gets the better drive? Mr. Psycho LB has to take the escape route or has to go rather leave the track to be able to get that drive so as to not run into the curve. Breaks way late on the inside. Meanwhile, ANL Flow and also wants to get involved, was peeking down the inside to be able to make a move on righty, but no is the case for now, as now Mr. Psycho LB has made a move, is now up in P5, and that might just be enough in terms of the point scoring. They are doing the Red Bull boys. They might just be able to outscore the Mercedes for the constructors as well, and so seal their double podium, or rather double championship with Exo Wolves as Digo and Psycho ALB. Digo, did he have another moment as there's a yellow flag for the house of Mr. Chris, I'm assuming. Yep, it is Mr. Chris who's had a major moment as hashtag with a convincing 2.5 second lead to Kingsman and Krusty Nation right behind. Meanwhile, another train Digo very close to the Red Bull of Mr. Psycho LB, and there's a bunch of cars who want to make those positions in these final laps, whatever positions they can, as these are some intense 3 laps to that final 3 laps that we are getting as the Mercedes and the Ferrari. And what makes it more intense is we are seeing a Red Bull, Mercedes and a Ferrari battle it out as almost tapped by the rest, but Red Exo Wolves has lost his car and he might just lose a position to Red Flame Joe as well. So does that change the equation in the constructors? We'll do the math later, but right now coming back to this battle, can Diego make a move in these final couple of laps on the hard runner of Mr. Psycho ALB right now? Destroyer Sean still at P7. He is also a part of this train. So what's going to happen in these final 2 laps, as now we are coming to the end of the season and the championship, as Destroyer Sean, I think, lost his car at the exit of that another remodeled corner. Now ANL Flow on Digo runs the curb pretty hard, which just unsettles his car and gets a poor exit now, but will have the DRS assist. Not a lot of battery for all these drivers to contend with, as I think Sviros has had a major moment there, as Digo, the Ferrari driver, has reset to track as well, making the most of the final race. But coming back, I mean, he just lost his car at that fast left-hander and just collected the Alpha Tauri of ANL Flow. And now we are in the final lap of the race. Hashtag Kingsman has pulled in a lot of roads onto hashtag, but he might just have run out of laps to be able to get a race victory here. And looking at how things stand, Mr. Psycho scoring 12 points and the Mercedes would be scoring 18 plus, I think, 624, so that's a delta of 12, so that won't be enough for them to be able to get the Constructors Championship. As if, is there any kind of a move coming in the final lap for any of these drivers? Can Sviros make a move on the Ferrari ahead, as now LVP hashtag comes to wind up the final few corners, as Red Flame Joe has had a major moment and has lost his car is now hashtag rounding up the final corner, takes the checkered flag and wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Kingsman 1.5 seconds behind him. Krusty Nation in P3. Mr. Psycho ALB is our new World Drivers' Championship for the All Nations League. Destroyer Sean finishing right behind him in P5, falling short by just 4 points. So 4 points separating the champion and the runner-up to by the end of this season. ANL Flo, has he secured his P3? Danny DNF'd and so he had a 14-point margin to Kingsman. Kingsman scores 18 points, he scores 8 points. So I think Flo has also just about done enough to be able to get that P3. So that's a dramatic end to the grand season finale. Hashtag taking the victory in the Williams, Kingsman and Krusty Nation rounding up the final podium positions. Mr. Psycho ALB, our championship winner in P4, followed by the championship runner up by just 4 points in this 11 race season. And by just 4 points, I think the difference in this 11 race season, I hope I said that right. ANL Flow in P6 maintains P3 in the Drivers' Championship. Righty Digo, Swiros, and Volcott rounding up the final points positions as Red Flame Joe, Kai, Exovos, Mr. Chris, FAIMR, Danny, Rutger, Jeroen, and Gatkowski not having the best of the season finales and no points for all these drivers. So that's about it. We have come to the end of season 3 of the All Nations League, and here's me, Easy Level Bot, aka Octavian, signing off from the comms box until we are back again with some more racing with a brand new season altogether. Until then, a very good night to you and have a great weekend ahead. Bye bye.